All right, so we'll finish up chapter 4 here, and maybe I'll look at the first exam and go over it. So, as I was just saying, I'll just repeat myself for you. The present value is it's the compound interest formula. So whatever, think of like an investment, so whatever you're investing, the present value of money, which could be, and the simplest way to look at it is to think $1, right? So let's say I invest $10,000, that's 10,000 $1 bills. And so I can take $1 times 1 plus the annual interest rate, and this is an annual compounding. So here it's got it correct up here, it's to the power of t. This should be to the power of t, this should be to the power of 1, should be to the power of 2. So I'm just saying, I think they have a typo here, so it should be like that. There you go. So the future value of money after t years is the present value times quantity 1 plus the interest rate. So here it's 4% to the power of t, and which they have it correctly up here. And that tells you how much money you'd have given an interest rate after t years. Now, the more important part of this, when you get down to the annuity. Yeah, so I kind of ended here. You have a lottery, right? So you think about, I'll erase that. So there's other factors come into play, and I mentioned, let's say you're really bad at money, right? So typically people that win the lottery are probably not great with money. I mean, you know, they show people that buy lottery tickets are typically broke, right? Typically people that can't afford to buy a lottery ticket, they call it a poor tax because it's a way government gets its money back in one way. Think of like a welfare or something like that. And so a lot of people on government assistance, on the one hand, we talked about how there's an incentive not to make enough to get off government assistance, right? Because you make a certain amount of money, you lose a huge amount of payments, whereas the lottery, on the other hand, huge windfall. Obviously, winning a lottery is better than being on government assistance in terms of your income. So a lot of the people that buy lottery tickets are not wealthy. Right, so we'll just leave it at that. And so if you're really bad at money, it might be a good idea to take those annual payments, right? So here you've got $10 million lottery, and they will pay you that full $10 million in $500,000 payments over 20 years. So obviously $500,000 a year times 20 years is 10 million, right? Or they will give you 6.7 million up front. And so you can do a little determination given an annuity. An annuity is an annual payment, and it's like kind of like a discounting rate, or what's the rate you could earn on your money, like that. Which one should you choose? And if you take $500,000 payments, given a 2% interest rate, which I have another chart down here that kind of shows it. Let's say you took that first $500,000, you put it in the bank at 2%. At the end of the year, you get $500,000. So at the end of 1 year, you have $500,000, right? And then after the second year, and there's a chart that kind of shows you how this works. There's a chart that you would get a second $500,000 payment, and you would have invested that first $500,000 at 2%, and then you're getting, at the end of the second year, you're getting $500,000. At the end of the third year, you're getting $500,000, and every $500,000 you got before that, you can earn 2% on it. And at the end of the time period, right, how much would you have? And then you discount it by 20% and all that. So it gives you a present value given the previous formula. So these are kind of related. Now you look at the interest rate. What's the rate of interest, where you determine whether or not those $500,000 payments, the present value, and notice they give you the option of $6.7 million. That's the present value, because that's the money that they're offering you. right? Or the annual payments here. And given the various interest rates, determine whether or not it's kind of worth it, right? So notice at 2% interest rate, discount rate, right? So you discount the future again. Those $500,000 payments over 20 years would be equal to a present value of $8.175 million. So if they offer you less than $8.175 million, it's not worth it, right? They would have to, at 2%, they'd have to offer you at least that much. Now, as the interest, your discount rate rises, the present value of that $10 million over 20 years, the present value starts to go up, becomes more valuable. Money today becomes more valuable relative to money in the future. And so you see, as the interest rate rises, the present value of those 20 years of payments starts to go down. And so at 10%, if you have a discount, you have a very high discount of the future, that means you value money today much more, which means you'd be willing to accept a lower present value payment, upfront lump sum. And so if you do the calculations here, it turns out that you're ambiguous between the two, right? You don't really care, right? You would go either way, right? You're indifferent, that's what I'm trying to say, between a present value payout of $6.7 million or the annual payments, which is, again, this is a total, you will get $10 million, you just get it a little bit at a time, right? And if your discount rate of the future of each of those payments over time is, and it's kind of a complicated formula to figure this out, but I actually did, I told you I had that friend of mine made up a whole thing, and you can actually look at it. So after 1 year of, 1 year is really, doesn't matter, but after the second year, the amount of payment, the $500,000, take that money, divide it by 1.04, in fact 1.0416, and that would be the present value. And really it's a little confusing here, but this is really after 1 year. It's the second, because you're getting money at the end of each year, say. That's kind of how the annuity thing works, the annuity chart that I'm going to go to in a minute. But at the end of the second year, you're going to get your second $500,000 payment, and you could have taken that first payment here. So what's the present value of $500,000? If you discount the future, so let me start over. If you discount the future at 4.16%, right? So you're saying a dollar today is worth $1.0614 a year from now. Does that make, that should make more sense. So I discount the future at 4.16%. So if you tell me you'll give me $1 today, how much would you have to give me a year from now to make me indifferent between that dollar today and some amount in the future? And that would be $1.04. Now take that, multiply it by $500,000, and you can see how much, for me to take $500,000 now versus 1 year from now, some unknown, right? So today, I'll take 500,000, or in 1 year, given I have a discount rate of the future of 4.16% every year, so I either get this today, or 1 year from now, I would expect you pay me 4.16% more than, which is what is that, by the way? Let me pull up the calculator here. Okay, 520,000. Right? So what this is saying is I am indifferent between a $500,000 payment today or $520,000, 800 a year from now, right? Now, if you offer me less than $520,800 1 year from now, I'm going to take the present payment. But if you offer me $521,000 a year from now, I would take the future payment. So this is a way you determine whether or not you value some payment today or some larger payment in the future, which one you value most. And so this is how you would, mathematically, if you will, determine whether or not you would be better off taking those annual payments versus taking the single lump sum today. And it turns out if they offer you 6.7 million today versus those $10 million over the course of 20 years, if you are indifferent, if you can't make up your mind between the two, that means your discount rate is 4.16%. So if they offer you more than that, if this is your discount rate and they offer you more than $6.7 million, you should take the lump sum. But if they offer you less than that, you should take the annual payments. Okay, so that's a little on the annuity. So there is a good annuity chart. So this is a different way to look at it. At 4% over 20 years, they've got present values, 20 years, different interest rates. What that is, this is, the lottery payment of $500,000 per year, every year. These are different discount rates over a 20-year period. What is the present value of that money today? So notice this, they raised at 4%, it's worth $6.795 million. So again, if the lottery offered me 6.795163 to take the money today, or $10 million paid over 20 years, at a 4% discount rate, I would be indifferent between the two. They would have to offer me some number higher than that to take the present value, and if they offered me anything less than that, I would take the annual payments, which is what that's just speaking mathematically. Obviously, there's a lot of other things that go into that. What do you think about what's going to happen in the future? That kind of goes into your discount rate, obviously. A lot of factors of your fear of the future goes into how much you discount. So if you're more fearful about the future, your discounting rate is going to be much, much higher, right? But if you really think, oh, the future is so bright I got to wear shades, then my discount rate would be lower, right? I would be more willing to take money in the future. So if you're young and healthy, you should have a lower discount rate because you have a much higher likelihood of living those 20 years. But if you're 65, then you might want to take that present value because you might have a discount rate of like 20% or something, right? And so there's a way you come up with an Excel spreadsheet and you can figure out the net amount of those. And I will actually post that assignment that he gave me just as something you can look at. It gives you a much more detailed description because it has the actual Excel sheet that I was able to, actually I think I did it with it a little bit myself. Yeah, I will post that with some explanations on it. But what it does is it shows you a payment every year, right? So if I get, again, the $500,000 this year, and I get another $500,000 in year 2, so after year 1, after year 2, you can go all the way down to 20 years. Now that $500,000 in the 20th year has, given a discount rate of 4%, is going to be equal to 500,000 divided by 1.0, and say my discount rate is 4% to the 20th power. So $500,000 20 years from now, given a 4% interest rate, has a present value of all clear. To the power of 1.04 to the power of 20 is, so that is if I stuck $1 in, if I took $1 today and I put it in a savings account or an investment that gives me 4%, at the end of 20 years, that $1 would be $2.19, right? And so you can think backwards and say $1 in the future, therefore would be 1 divided by that number. What was it, 2.19? Yeah, so $1 20 years from now is worth 45 cents today, right? So then I would take this $500,000, 500, and divide it by 2.19. And so that $500,000 payment 20 years from now has a present value of 1 divided by, or a 500,000 divided by 1.04 to the 20th, so it would have a present value of 228 point, or 0.5. So $228,000. So what I would do is I would do that every year. So then I would take this to the 19th, find out how much its present value is, take it to the 18th, yada, yada, yada. I would do that for 20 years, and I would come up with the total amount paid over time, and that would be basically how my present value is done. So that, it's a, I don't really want to do the whole thing here, but I do have that chart if you want to look at it. So you're not going to have to do something like that, but it gives you an idea of how present value is done. Right? Now, to make it easier, there's an annuity table. Where's the annuity table? I'm sure it's in this chapter. Maybe that's what I did. I want to show you guys the annuity table. Yeah. There we go. So here you have $1 paid at the end of each period for T periods, right? So let me see. So this is basically an annuity table. And again, any amount you're getting paid, so this is for every $1. So let's say you get $1 paid at the end of 1 year, given an interest rate of 5%. After 1 year, you're obviously gonna have $1, right? Because that's how much you got paid at the end of the year. Now, if you had $1 paid every period at the end of the period, at the end of the second period, you would have the first dollar, and you would have had 4% interest on that first dollar. So $1.04 at the end of 2 years, right? Plus the dollar that they paid you, so you would have a total of $2.04. Right? Now, at the end of a third period, you would have had those first $2, the second one having earned 4%, and then you're getting a third dollar where those $2, each of which had earned interest. Right? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so at the end of the third period, after 2 years of the first dollar earning interest for 2 years, the second dollar earning interest for 1 year, and now getting a third dollar, you would have $3.12 at the end of, after your third payment of $1, right? And so this chart, it tells you, let's say, I had a question on here of, and this kind of gives you an idea of a future value as well, right? So if I give you, let's say, I'm gonna give you $1 every year for 9 years at the end of the year, that would be a total of $9, right? But that would be $9 in payouts. However, the present value of those $9 in payouts would be much higher, because if you give me the money today, I could invest it, and at the end of 9 years, I would have a certain amount of money, right? Of course, these are 9 1-year payouts, not $9 at the beginning, so it's a little, but the equivalent of $9 being paid out $1 at a time for 9 years, the present value would, given a 5% interest rate, would be $11. or the total amount paid would be $11. So that's not the present value. So now you can try to figure out, given a total payout of $1 every year, where each after I get $1, I'm able to earn interest on that dollar, then I'm able to earn interest on that first dollar for 2 years, second dollar for 1 year, and then after 5 years, I've earned interest on this one for 4 years, this dollar for 3 years, this dollar 1 year, right, in 0 years, because I just got that dollar. So the $1 paid at the end of each year, this is how much that I would have given I'm able to earn interest, 5%. So that is the future value of the annuity, right? So the question I have on the exam, I'll just show you the question here. Okay, so here's the annuity. And it's number 8, I think. So it asks 20 years, is right there, right? Try to download this. So you should be able to download this. I'm not sure if you can. But you can look at that and go down to number 8. And it says 6%, 20 years, $10,000, right? So 20 years, that's 20 payments on the left side, 6% across the top. And what would be the payout? And so 20 years, $10,000, 6%. So we're gonna go 20 years over to 6%. And that's gonna be, so $20,000 is gonna be 36. For every dollar, you get 36,786. Right? So the $10 per year. Where's the other one I had? Come back to 20 years, 6% pays me $10 per year. Yeah, so that one, that $10 per year is a little easier. So I'll just do that one here. $10 per year. 20 years, 6%, that's what I was trying to do. So again, so 20 years over to 6%, sorry. So 20 years, 6%, it's giving me $10 a year, right? This is the idea of paying you $1 per year. So what do? So if they paid me $1 per year, at the end of 10 years, I would have a total of $36.79. So now if they paid me $10 per year, that would be 10 of these, right? So you basically just move the decimal over. So it'd be $367.86. So that's how you do number 7 here. $20 years, so they're giving you $1 for 20 years with a 6% annuity. Again, that one right there, right? And then you would just multiply that by 10, and that will give you the amount, the future value of a $10 per year payment. Okay. I'll do this one. I'm actually probably going to do this one in more detail. Oh, this is a little different. So if they're just giving you an annual payout, so how much is this giving you every year? 6% of $10,000 is $600, right? So they're paying you $600 every year. 6%, right? Just 6%. A bond payout, a coupon payment for a bond is simple interest, where they give you a payment of 6% of the price of the bond every year. 6% of 10,000 is $600, right? That's a simple one right there, simple interest. And then annual compound interest, this is an annual compound interest formula. So, suppose it collects annually, so what would be the value of the bond at the end of, yeah, so this is a little different question. So this just come up with the annual compound interest formula, which is what I did before. So annual compound interest, the amount after t years is the principal times 1 plus r to the t, right? So plug that one in there, and yeah, so this one, use your annuity chart here as well. There, you can download the chart here, so that should make it easier. There we go. So if you download the chart, right there. Okay, so now you can open up the annuity and look at it if you want to, for when you need to answer this question. Yeah, so just again, think $1 times 10, whatever the answer is, right, on the chart, which we just did, and then yeah, $10 each year for the next 10 years at 5%. So again, 10 years, 5%. So look at 10 over to 5, and so this is the future value of the accumulation of those payments. This is $1, so you just multiply that by 10, right? And that tells you the future value of an annual payment given an interest rate of 5%, how much you can get for that, right? Any questions on that, on the annuity chart? You probably have some. Nothing? Okay, good.
Is that the same equation as the?
This is a little different because this isn't this is a payment, and then so before we had what's the present value of a series of payments, then you're kind of going backwards. So you're taking, so yeah, let me actually do that, because that I think will be helpful. Let me clear this off. So let's say, let's just look at 5 years, okay? So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And let's say I'm gonna get, I would like to buy an annuity that pays me $10 every year for the next 5 years, I guess. And let's say I have a discounting of 5%. So at the end of the first year, so again, I'm getting paid $10, but how much is that today, given I have a discount of 5%? So that's going to be the amount at the end of the first year, the equivalent of $10 today versus, the amount at the end of 1 year. What would $10 today be worth me after 1 year? Well, that would be 10 divided by 1.05 to the first power, right? And then, how much is $10 today versus a $10 payment 2 years from now? Well, that would be 10 divided by 1.05 squared. Now, this is actually, let's just say 95 cents, just to make it simple. And then, where's my calculator? So 10 divided by 1.05 squared is not, that's not right. 1.05 squared. Oh, I gotta clear it, that's why, sorry. There we go. So now I'm gonna take 1.1025. There we go. So $9.07, right? Yeah, so $10 should, sorry, it should be $9.50, and then $9, 10 years. I had my decimals off. I was looking at $1, so $9.07, right? We said 907. Yeah. Okay, so $10 today, given a 5% discount rate. So 5% of $10 is 50 cents, right? So I'm discounting my $10 a year from now is the equivalent of $9.50, approximately. Right. It should be 9, yeah, 9. I mean, it's more exact, it's 9.52, but I just didn't want. So there you go. So then $10 today, given a 5% discount rate, 2 years from now is the same as $9, right? So, I'm sorry, I'm saying that backwards. Sorry about that. So $9 today would be the equivalent of the 10, because remember, this is giving me $10 every year, right? And so if you're gonna tell me you're gonna pay me $10 2 years from now, I would be say either that or $9.07 today. I'm indifferent between the two because of my 5% discount rate, right? So the value of a $10 payment 2 years from now is $9.07 today, given the, and so then I would just keep going. I would go 10 over 1.05 cubed, 10 over 1.05 to the fourth, to the fifth. Right? So $10, a $10 payment 5 years from now, given a 5% discount rate, would be worth how much to me today? Okay. We need to go to the cubed. And that's going to be $8.64. And then if I just keep dividing by 1.05, I get $8.23. And now I'm going to divide by 1.05 again. 784. So what that means is, again, if I'm going to get $10 each year for 5 years, what would I pay for that annuity? I would pay today, I would be willing to pay the present value of each of those 5 payments. And so what I do is I sum these up to find out the total present value of an annuity. So again, $10 1 year from now is worth $9.57 today. $10 payment 2 years from now is worth $9.07 today. A $10 payment 3 years from now is worth $8.64 today. So that would be, basically what I'm saying is, you say you're gonna give me $10 3 years from now, I would give you $8.64 today to get into that agreement, right? If that makes sense. If that makes sense right there. Because it would be the equivalent of taking $8.64 today and sort of earning 5% interest on it and having 10 essentially, right? Just about. So then I would figure, okay, how much would I be willing to pay today? And this is the lottery thing, right? This is how you figure out the lottery. You just do that for 20 years. $500,000 payments for 20 years. You figure out what this is, you sum them all up, you come out with the net total present value of each of those payments over 20 years. Now, you don't want to do this on paper, you probably want to do it in Excel, because you could just punch in the formula and then hit like enter and it'll spit them all out really quickly, right? And then you can sum them. There's very little calculations needed to be done by you, so Excel will do the hard work for you. Okay, but let's add those all up. So what do we get? Is that right? $43.30?
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's like good enough. So basically what I'm saying is, if you promise to pay me $10 every year for the next 5 years, I will give you $43.30 today. Right. Now, what you would be able to do, as usually these are done with insurance companies, what an insurance company will do is they'll take that money and invest it somewhere so that it grows, right? And so in the first year, they have $43.30 sitting there, and they can invest that. They're gonna give you $10, right? So after 1 year, they will have minus 10, so they'll have $33.30 plus whatever interest they were able to get on investing and things like that, right? And then after the second year, they're gonna give you another $10 payment, but they're gonna be able to invest whatever they were earned on interest in the market or something like that, plus the amount of money you gave them way back when. And so they'll just keep doing that. Now, if they earned no interest over the 5 years, they just let the money sit there, well, they would be, after that fifth year payment, you know, they would only have $3 left to make a $10 payment, right? So that's why they have to make sure that they're earning interest on the annuity that they pay you. So what I understand, I've never looked into this, I've just had someone tell me a long time ago that when you win the lottery, you win a $10 million lottery, the government, typically what they'll do is they'll go buy that annuity payment. They will give, so let's say you win a lottery that's a $50 lottery that's gonna pay you $10 per year for 5 years. They will go out, they will pay $43.30 to some company at 5% interest, and that company now promises to make those payments to you. Right? They get the money up front, they're able to take it, invest it, do whatever they want with it, and but then they have to make these payments to you over the 5 years. So this is how an annuity works. So and again, it's a good idea to try to figure out what your discounting value is, right? And again, it's compounded, because if I discount 5% every year, in 5 years, that's not 50%, it's compounded, and so I don't have a 50% discount for 5 years, I have a 5% per year, which is 95 after the first year, and then it's like 91, and then it's gonna be 87, and anyways. So this is how an annuity works though. You pay money up front, and then they promise to make payments over the course of 5 years, but you're not gonna give them $50 and then have them pay you $10 each year for 5 years, because of the discount you have for the future, and the possibility that I could just take the money and invest it myself, get 5% per year, get 5%, take $10 out, and now I have $45, and then I'll invest that at 5%, and at the end of the second year, I'll take $10 out, and yada, 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 right? So I could do it that way. I could just take the money, buy my own annuity in myself, sort of, if you will. But the reason you do it with a company is you get these guaranteed payments, right? That's the reason people buy annuities, is it's a guaranteed payment every year. And you do it at a discount, right? So again, you're not gonna go to a company and say, here's $50, pay it back to me in $10 installments, because you're not earning interest on that, right? And you're giving them, in terms of the future value, a lot more than you paid for it. So hopefully I wasn't rambling and all over the place there, if you will, but yeah. So that's kind of a little bit on that. Let's see. We've got liquidity. This I talked about transaction costs. Here, yeah, so this is discounting the future, right? So $100 today or $105 a year from now, means you have a 5% discount, right? There's the annuity thing. Yeah, so there you go. That one, so we can talk about that, the specifics. Discount. Yeah, so there you go, this is how you would do it. So if you're, I'm gonna give you $200 a year from now with the 10% discount, what you wanna do is you wanna take that 200 and divide it by 1.10, right? And you're gonna get about $180, not exactly, but so $180 today or $200 a year from now provides you with a 10% discount. Interest rate, you want to think about inflation, what's the future, discounting rates, trust in the borrower is obviously a big one, right? Now, the less you trust somebody, the higher the interest rate you're going to demand from them. Oh, the marshmallow, this is your ability to put off things. So if you are, they did this test with kids, I think it was a Stanford or something, and they said, hey, here's a marshmallow. If you wait until I come back, which is like 10 minutes from now, you don't eat this marshmallow, I'll give you 2 marshmallows. And the kids that ate the 1 marshmallow versus the kids that were able to wait and put off satisfaction, right? The kids, they looked at it many, many years later, and they found the kids that were able to delay gratification, that is, they're like sitting there pinching themselves, doing something to distract themselves from eating the marshmallow until the person comes back and gives them 2 marshmallows. Those kids did better in their financial future than the kids that could not put off gratification. So it's just the idea that if you're able to delay gratification, that's what school is about, right? You could go to school and better your skills, get a degree, whatever it is, or you could go directly into the workforce. And they found that kids that were able to delay gratification were more successful in the future. So that was a really kind of a, not really mind-blowing at all, because it seems logical, right? And so it was a big study, groundbreaking. I did talk about this. I talked about land, labor, capital, right, and the return. So you labor, and you get wages for your labor, right? And then opportunity costs, what you give up. Right? So I think everything in here, yeah. Assets and liabilities. We really breezed over the balance sheet. But the balance sheet is you look at everything you own. And actually that's what the project thing is. A very simple project. You want to write assets, and then you want to write liabilities. Liabilities. Right? And so in the project, you want to write down your assets, your house value of the house, how much you owe on the house, the value of the car, how much you owe on the car. If your liability is greater than the actual value of the car, you have a negative net worth, right? And so you write your savings account, your credit card bill, right? Oh, sorry, right? Your savings account, how much money in your savings account, how much your credit card bill says you owe, right? And so then you want to add up all your assets and subtract off all of your liabilities, and what you get is you get net worth, right? And so we talked about people that bought a house here more than 10 years ago, you know, the value of the home on average is like 1.2 million, and they probably owe something like 300,000, right, on the house. And so that just right there leaves them with $0.9 million in net worth, if you ignore everything else, obviously. They probably have savings account, maybe they have some debt on the car. You know, I have so the car out there is probably, it's less than a year old, so I probably owe a lot more than it's worth. So if I were like in a credit crunch and I had to sell my car, I would probably be left with, a bill, right? So, okay, so I'm gonna stop the video.